What is your worst sexual experience? My current girlfriend rubbed some muscle cream on my legs after a bit of sport. She then started to go down on me, forgetting to wash her hands after the cream. I started to feel a little hot and cold sensation which ended up in scorching pain for about 30 minutes. We laugh about it today, but in the heat of the moment, it was the worst thing ever. In the heat of the moment it wasn't cool. FTFY. Having sex with a friend because we were both lonely and depressed. Sad, passionless experience that ruined the friendship. I've been there. Her saying I don't want to ruin things before trying again later on never helped. In my experience, I don't want to ruin things is like the non-problematic no homo of ducking your friends. Sad trombone noise. Tromboner. When I was 20, I had a long distance girlfriend, and when she was in town, we would really go at it. Yeah, no. Releasing a couple months of pent up sexual frustration in a couple days, I got into a weird position. And it was straining something in me. I just didn't know what. I'm about to switch. But then I noticed she was responding really well. So I said to myself, man, I'll just suck it up, and went for it for a while till she got hers. We both finished, and I thought all was good. She left. And a week later I noticed a bulge forming just above my dick. Fearing the worst, dick cancer or some such nonsense, I went and saw a doctor. Yep. Got a hernia. Had to get surgery. TLDR. Great sex. Very expensive. 7/10. Hernias are such bullshit. I got a gym buddy who deadlifts around 350 pounds on the regular. Has a strong core and got a hernia from sneezing too hard while bent over tying his shoelaces. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. First time doing the deed with a new GF. She stops halfway through and runs to the bathroom. Doesn't come back after like 10 minutes, and then I hear her calling for me, telling me not to come in, but asking if I can go get some Depends for her from CVS. Okay. Go. Come back. Hand them to her without looking into the bathroom. 5 minutes later she tells me she has lost a lot of blood and asks if I can drive her to the hospital. The closest one being the hospital she works at as a nurse. We get there. Sign into the reception desk of the while waiting to be seen by the triage nurse. She starts to pass out on my shoulder from blood loss. They finally see us, and the triage nurse asks her directly in front of me in the triage room if this is the product of domestic abuse. She says no, thankfully. Then they take her to the back, and the doctors find a tear that has been causing all of the bleeding. They let her go, and I take her home. It's now like 2 AM and I've been riding this roller coaster for about 6 hours. I will never forget that experience. Scared the shit out of me on multiple levels. Damn dude, you literally tore her a new one. It's not mine, but I had a boyfriend when I was 19, and they had a very small apartment. His mom was sleeping in the middle room, and you had to go through that to get to his room. One night I slept over, and I really needed to pee around 5 AM. I got up, opened the door, went in and saw his mom ducking with a dude. I panicked and instead going back to my BFS room, I ran into the bathroom. IDK how long I was there for, but I remember them saying she's never gonna come out. I eventually did. Apologized like 500 times, and even though it was 11 years ago, I'm still embarrassed, and I still have certain images in my head. I remember them saying she's never gonna come out. I eventually did. Silly me. I saw a completely different scenario play out in my head. Are you okay in there? Apostrophe. I'm gay. Apostrophe. Are you okay in there? He stops mid-thrust and says, I know this is a bad time to say this, but I think we should just be friends. I'm curious what your next move was. Just lock eyes with him and stare. First one to flinch loses and must concede. Username checks out. My ex once kicked me in the stomach when she had an orgasm. I was on top, so I fell to the floor and split my head open. Had to stay in hospital overnight. Edit. Somehow this seems to be interesting, so I try to answer some questions. I had to go to the hospital because I was a bit lightheaded. There was some blood, but not in alarming amounts. This happened about 10 years ago, and yes, she was very flexible. No, I'm not from US, hence my poor English. This ain't the reason we broke up. It was all the shit she is made of. I told to the hospital staff that I just fell and only banged my head. I think they didn't believe me. Yes, it was the kind of sex that made you hold on to your dear life. Wow, you gave busting a nut a whole new meaning. I do hope you're okay though. Having sex with a girl at a house party who bled over both of us. But because it was dark, neither of us realized. We proceeded to walk into a house party full of people with blood over our clothes and hands. Who've been there? She is really wet. She must be super into me. Thankfully it wasn't at a house party and only sheets had to be thrown out. That must have been hyper embarrassing for both of you. Friend of mine who used to be a real alcoholic told me this happened to a friend. Apostrophe. Picked up a girl in a bar while barely conscious. Get home. And can't remember a thing after that. Wakes up in the morning. Hungover. Head pounding like hell. Looks over. And she's ugly as sin. So ugly. He's tempted to chew his arm off to get away from her without waking her. Aka coyote duck. Anyway, he finally slides arm out from under her. Stumbles to the bathroom cause he's got a pee so bad. Mumbling to himself over and over. Please. God. Tell me I didn't duck her. She's so ugly. Tell me I didn't. Apostrophe. He gets to the toilet. As he's emptying his full bladder. Looks in the mirror. The bottom half of his face is covered in dried blood. One time I accidentally tore one of my ex's piercings out when it got caught in the sheet. She cried and there was a lot of blood. Totally an accident, but a shitty one for sure. My girlfriend had her nipple piercing fall out when the ball unscrewed, and she asked me to try to get it back in, no matter the screaming. Nope. I was with a girl who had no emotion at all. No moaning. No heavy breathing. Nothing. She just kind of laid there staring at me. She wanted to be on top at one point, and I thought, oh, maybe she's just more into that. Nope. She just kind of sat there. Again. Blankly staring at me. No movement at all. I asked her afterwards if everything was fine, and she went, holy shit, it was amazing. I was so ducking confused. Edit. To the people saying sexual abuse, maybe? I really don't know. This happened a few years after high school. She was the one that initiated fooling around. And was even the one that said you should get a condom. She seemed to have way more emotion during foreplay and appeared to be into it when she wasn't responding during sex. I did ask at one point if she wanted me to stop, to which she replied, duck no, you better not. The whole situation was bizarre. I honestly felt like I did something wrong for the next few days and felt guilty as hell. I asked her a few days later if she was okay and apologized if I made her uncomfortable. She was adamant she was okay and even said I may need that again sometime. I had no idea how to approach the topic of you laid there like a lifeless person. We didn't have sex again after that night. We are still friends and see each other regularly since she married one of my good friends. She never acted awkward or timid after we slept together. My worst, and incidentally, first time ever having full-on sex happened when I was 17. Was briefly dating a girl in the year below me. She was always one of those super confident, super experienced girls who bragged about how good she was in bed. Cut to the summer before my senior year. Months after a previous sexual encounter with her ended with me breaking an ankle. Another story for another time. We are at my place. Home alone. Listening to music and just chilling in my bed. I don't recall the exact circumstances, but we decide that it was a good time to have sex. So we are doing our thing. Making out. Using hands. Mouth. Etc. Finally the moment arrives. I'm about to get laid for the first time ever. She's on top of me. Whisper in my ear something like, warn me before you go off. And next thing I know I'm inside her. For the first couple minutes my thoughts are I don't get what the big deal is about sex. But my girlfriend is getting super into it. Grinding super hard and fast. Basically slamming herself down on me. Out of nowhere I feel this absolutely excruciating pain. And I swear to God I hear something snap. Somehow or another my junk and her pelvic bone have just smashed together. Without thinking I shove her off me and fall out of bed. Not quite screaming in pain, but absolutely gasping in agony. Some time passes. Maybe 10-15 minutes. And I'm still super swollen and the pain just won't relent. I finally give up and call my mother and tell her I need her to take me to the hospital. A few hours later I'm lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to some painkiller, and I learn that my girlfriend sprained my penis. This marked the second sex-related injury I'd injured from her, and we broke up shortly after. TL, doctor, I sprained my penis the first time I ever had sex. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.